Okay, I think we're ready to begin. Well, welcome everybody to this program. We're happy to have you here. This is about, not that everyone has to be a parent, but this is geared towards parents to give them an idea of how to negotiate and how to transition as parents. And we've got three wonderful panelists here. I'll do a brief introduction for them, and then I will ask them to tell you a little bit more about what they do and their roles at Boston College. And then I have a series of questions that we'll ask, and you're free to use the Q&A to pose more questions, and we'll try to intersperse those with the ones that we think you should be interested in. We have, first of all, who's sharing the same room as I am, Joe Dijiak, who is the Associate Dean and Director of the Academic Advising Center at Boston College. And then we have Amy Lacombe, who is the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Programming in the Carroll School of Management, and the chair of the Portico program. And we also have Dr. Kathy Duggan, who's the director of the Connors Family Learning Center. And I do want to point out that no disrespect to Joe, but Kathy and Amy are unofficially triple eagles. So so they know Boston College in many capacities. So why don't we do things where each of you do a little bit of a 5-minute intro, and we can go in the same order that we just introduced. So Joe, and then Amy, and then Kathy, please.
Thanks so much, Howard. Joe Desjak here, and it's a pleasure to be with you all virtually this evening. Welcome to Boston College. As Howard said, I am the Associate Dean for Freshmen and the Director of the Academic Advising Center for the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. In my role, I oversee the center, which works with all first-year students to ensure a smooth academic transition to the college and to academic life. In addition, as Freshman Dean, I work with our first-year students throughout the year to transition, and is also to work on academic planning and any kind of concerns that may come up during the year. The structure of the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences is there's a class year dean that works with each of our students as we progress and as we move forward. And so I function as the freshman dean. We begin our work actually in May when we receive the report from our Office of Undergraduate Admission of who has been accepted and who will be joining us in the upcoming fall semester. And from that point forward, we begin to structure a schedule that is appropriate for each of the students depending on their career choice. But the most popular major, so to speak, is undeclared. So I always say to first-year students, it's good to come in not quite sure, because Boston College has a very rich tradition of a core curriculum where there's lots to do ahead of actually declaring the formal major. So we begin this process in May, and we work throughout the summer through a number of orientation sessions where students then will interact with academic advisors and myself and my team to begin to plan a fall curriculum. And then, of course, we meet the first-year students when they arrive on campus and begin our interactions with them in developing our path forward. All of this is done within our rich Catholic and Jesuit tradition of higher education. It's the longest standing tradition of higher education, arguably, in the world. Over 450 years of Jesuit education has seen great success. And we continue that at Boston College, and we do that through our advising program. Something slightly different than perhaps other institutions is that we don't have what we would call a professional advising program. When I say professional advising program, that means there's not professional advisors that do the curriculum planning for first-year students and sophomores and juniors and seniors. We rely solely on the faculty to do this. So members of the faculty work one-on-one with our students from the very first day. And each faculty member that accepts this great responsibility would only take somewhere between 5 and maybe 15 or 20 advisees. So it's a very intimate setting that we have, and immediately from day one, we're very proud to say that our students meet a member of the faculty. So I have lots to say, but I want to turn it over because I look forward to your questions. And I very much welcome you to Boston College.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Lacombe, and I'm, like Joe, I'm considered the freshman dean of the business school, the Carroll School of Management. Welcome to Boston College. And if your son or daughter is interested in the Carroll School of Management, it's a little bit different in that there's about 550 to 600 entering freshmen, and they will all take a course at the same time in the freshman fall called Portico. And Portico, obviously, is just an entranceway where we stole the name from. And Portico is an intro to business in an ethical context. And it's classes of 19 students or less with 2 senior teaching assistants. And there are 5 full-time faculty, and I teach 2 classes. So it's a course-based advising. So each faculty will teach 6 classes of 19 students, and then they'll be free in the spring to be their advisor as well. So it's a little bit unique. We are entering our 12th year of doing this. We are very proud of the program because prior to this, there was no kind of community building, as well as it's a very rigorous academic class. We just finished Adam Smith, John Locke, looking at the tensions of the roots of capitalism and the roots of globalization, and now we're getting into innovation. So it really does kind of show them the tensions that exist in the business world and how the business decision making, how it's so complex. So the course is kind of the entranceway for your son or daughter. And as Joe mentioned, we are very fortunate that in May, we work with the Office of First Year Experience in the admissions office, and your Portico instructor, just randomly assigned, will be your son or daughter's advisor over the summer at orientation, whether it's virtual or in person. And then they get to meet them all summer. They help them with the courses that they'd like to take. They become their instructor in Portico, and then they actually end up being their advisor the entire freshman year. So 3 of the 8 semesters will be with this Portico instructor, and they are master teachers and wonderful human beings. And I couldn't be more proud of a program. So that's kind of the freshman entranceway into the Carroll School of Management. And then after freshman year, we do have 4 professional advisors based on alphabet that help the faculty advising. Very much like the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, we have faculty advisors, but we also have some professional advisors there to help kind of coach with study abroad and some really complex questions that the faculty may know, but it's just another layer of support. So as Joe mentioned, we're rooted in the Jesuit tradition of men and women for others. And in all the schools, whether it's Morrissey College, Carroll School of Management, Lynch School of Education, or the Cannell School of Nursing, there are a plethora of people there to help and support your son or daughter if they enter.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, I'm Kathy Duggan. Good evening, and I am the director of the Connors Family Learning Center here at Boston College, and have been at the Connors Center for about 30 years. So that will tell you that I really enjoy working with BC students in this role. The Connors Center provides a comprehensive and coordinated services that support our students in academic, emotional, and social environments at BC. And we work really hard to engage with the students. We have a central space on campus that we call our learning center, and we kind of are a lively, vibrant, interactive space where our students come. We provide a variety of support services. Probably the most popular one is a free peer tutoring. There's a lot, we provide resources for students as they come to adjust to these college expectations, which are new for many of our students who have been very successful in high school and still are successful in college, but encounter some challenges that they didn't maybe expect with the increasing volume of the material, the different type of content. And so many students who've never really used a tutor in their life actually are searching out tutors for the first time when they come. We provide a large tutoring program and over 60 courses for students at BC, many of them that are offered as core courses to our freshmen and sophomore students in some of their required courses. Calculus and writing tend to be our 2 biggest areas where we draw the students in. Interestingly enough, we do see struggling students, but we tend to see a lot of students who are very strong students that are coming in because they're maybe getting a B in a class and they're looking to get an A. They come in and they do talk with another peer about that course that maybe someone has taken before. They can review for exams. They can clear up any confusion that they may have had in class. They can get feedback on their problem sets or whatever they may have done in class. About 50% of the freshman class comes into the Connors Center for Assistance. So that's something you could share with your son or daughter, at least in thinking about a learning center in college, that it's very different, I think, than what a lot of them think about when they compare it to their high school. In addition to content tutoring, we also provide something that we call academic coaching. And that's working with students around organization, time management, effective study skills, test-taking tips. Many of them, students were great with this in high school as well, but high schools are very structured and students are used to leading structured lives guided by their parents, and many of them to come to college, which can be very unstructured until they impose their own structure. And so we have academic coaches that work with students who can help them come up with a schedule that might be good for them and help them kind of on some of those soft skills that our students need. We also have an online writing lab. We find that many of our students, we all can be better writers and receive feedback on our writing. Many of our students had a mentor, a teacher, a parent look over their papers when they were home, and now all of a sudden that's gone. Students can come in and sit with a writing tutor and or submit to our online writing lab where they would receive feedback on their writing within 48 hours. The Connors Center also provides services for students with learning disabilities and ADHD. We have about 500 students that are registered with us. Bright students who probably use some minor accommodations when they're in high school, but those minor accommodations make a big difference in their ability to be successful at BC. And we have learning specialists on staff that are ready and willing to work with students as well. And as my colleagues talked about the Jesuit lens, I find that we see that at the Connors Center as well. I think if you're looking at colleges, you'll find that our model is probably different from many of the ones that you see at other colleges. We support all students, any student that wants to walk in the door. You don't have to check off any boxes. If you want to come in, we're kind of an inclusive, holistic environment, and anybody can come in. Students come in, maybe they just want to see a chemistry tutor, but by the time they leave, I think they leave with a lot more than that. They may end up meeting other students in that major and creating a cohort of friends in the chemistry major. They may end up getting a referral from us to someone like Joe or Amy in another school that we can connect them with to talk to. For many of them, it becomes a home away from home where they can connect with other students. And I think that that's kind of in keeping with the Jesuit model too. And probably what's kept me there for 30 years as well. Thanks.
Terrific. Thank you all very much for the terrific introductions. I'd like to start off with Joe, and then Amy. This might be different, and Kathy, if you have something to add to this. But how are, you touched upon this initially, Joe, how are undecided students, the undeclared, how are they advised when they first come in that first year?
Thanks, Howard. We take pride in our core curriculum at Boston College, and our core curriculum is rich, and it's not perhaps as some students may initially perceive a checkbox or a form that has to be completed before graduation. While that might be true, in essence, to receive a bachelor's degree from Boston College, you have to complete so many courses within the core curriculum. We really lean on the core to develop our students wholly, WH, and how they move within their discernment to select the proper major. And this is really important. We think of it as an appetizer to an entree. In other words, sample a bit from here to there of different disciplines that you otherwise would not have an opportunity to taste. And so this rich core curriculum that we pride ourselves with is something that is far more than a checkbox. So students who come in who aren't sure about what their major is or what their career path, quite honestly, and this is just my opinion, is the best way to come to college. It's the best way to come because there's so much out there that we wouldn't have, students would not otherwise have an opportunity to experience in high school. Or with their own work experiences or whatever. So it's the best way to come. there's plenty to do within the core curriculum. In fact, you could do 2 full academic years of core courses before you need to formally declare a major within the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. It provides an opportunity to be able to dabble in different opportunities. So students that are feeling stressed about not quite sure what their career path is or what their major is, or on the other side of it, parents who are encouraging students to do certain career paths or majors can have some ease and relax a little bit in knowing that there's much to do and there's great fruit in what happens in their first 2 years.
I'll piggyback on that. A little bit different in the Carroll School of Management, that all graduates will graduate with a BS in management. Their technical major is management in the Carroll School of Management. And then we ask them to select 1, no more than 2 concentrations within the Carroll School. And a concentration is what you would typically think of: finance, accounting, marketing, information systems. Those are 4 or 5 classes in a particular area. And again, they can take no more than 2 concentrations, because we do believe that in the importance of the core and the liberal arts curriculum. So students don't need to declare their concentration until literally midway through junior year, even as late as senior fall, because they can take 2 and 2 in the senior year and fall and complete a concentration. But along the way, we do encourage them to not obviously complete the core and MCAS, but consider a minor or major, and we incentivize them to do so. So if they major in an MCAS major outside of the Carroll School, they get to reduce their core classes within the Carroll School by 2 classes. And if they minor outside, whether it be at Lynch School or in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, they can reduce their CSOM core by 1 class. So we're really trying to encourage them to get outside the halls of Fulton Hall, as we call it, and pursue majors and minors outside, because we think the broader they are in making connections, the better it will serve them in the long term.
Okay. A parent asked just recently, we've got good strategies that you've all talked about. How do we get students to actually use the resources?
Well, I suppose I'll say, I mean, this is a transition for both parents and for students, for sure, in learning what college life is about. And so we really count on students to take the initiative here. It's different. I regularly will say to a student, me not calling you or emailing you doesn't mean I don't care. It's because I respect that you're an adult, and this is an opportunity for you to be able to voice yourself and to make yourself known. And there's no question that is not appropriate to ask. And so it's really important. I mean, in the Morrissey College, the whole purpose of having the Academic Advising Center is to be a hub of this type of academic questions. It's a space that is accessible. We're in Stokes Hall, we're on the first floor. Many of our students will be taking their courses in that building. So dropping by, but also now in our new reality, which hopefully is temporary, we've developed different virtual drop-in measures that students can ask questions, because we recognize that this is new turf. This is a new experience. And so it's very important to ask these types of questions, and there's many resources that we have that are available, but the onus is on the student, and we take that very seriously.
I agree with Joe on that as well. We don't go knocking on students' doors telling them to come in for any kind of services that we offer at the Connor Center, but we're full most of the time. And they see that half of their classmates are coming over, and we kind of expect them to be coming in the door and take advantage of the services that we offer as well.
One of the big questions that came up with our freshman class when we had our dean address them is, he was saying, find your passion, find your passion. And the students, like about 10 students in the chat were like, how do I find my passion? And honestly, they have to just, I have a philosophy, say yes to everything you can until you have kids. Because the only way that any student, any person will find what they want to do is if they just try stuff, whether it be go to a speaker or go to a lecture, and so often they're missed, undergraduate and beyond. So honestly, the best advice as parents you could give is to tell them, I mean, we had the president of NASCAR with lunch with the leader and only 30 kids signed up. Like, there's so much at Boston College, and all they have to do is go sit and listen, even virtually. And the only way they're going to figure out what they want to do is through experience. And the only way they can get that experience is showing up.
Another question came in from a participant. Kathy, I'm going to ask you to take this one. It's, what types of resources does Boston College offer students with ADHD? And if a student, these are prospective students and parents, if a student is not admitted to Boston College because it's a very challenging process, what piece of advice would you give a student in order for them not to be discouraged?
Well, I think we all know that students with ADHD have at least average or above average intelligence. I would say that they need to focus on their strengths. Many of them have weaknesses in either attention or executive function, but they have special talents and interests in lots of other areas. So I always say to students, let's sit down and take a look at what it is that you're really good at, because most of these students have significant areas of strength. And then in terms of what we provide them, we really provide them, Howard, what they need on an individualized basis, and that varies from person to person. Sometimes it's accommodations, people say, oh, all they get is extended time or, a few academic accommodations. Some of them need that. Some of them come in with us on a regular basis. Some of them use our counseling services for help. Many of them connect with faculty in different ways. So, I encourage students to be their own self-advocates, to come in, let us know your needs, talk with us, and there's a lot of resources here for us to work with you. And to just not get discouraged and have those conversations with people about what are the special strengths, often strengths in creativity in different areas that students need to figure out how to use.
Terrific, thank you. Once a student decides on a major, how does academic advising sort of change a little bit and help them on their academic journey?
For the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, when a student decides officially on a major, they'll meet with a member of the department. So this would be a director of undergraduate studies. And after they meet one-on-one with this person, the director of undergraduate studies will, after they see their career path and their interest, will go ahead and appropriately assign them to a member of the faculty within their department. So the student will transition from their, what we call a pre-major advisor, which again is a member of the faculty, which spans all disciplines, and then will be assigned someone within their specific discipline of interest of study. And then this person will, this faculty member will remain with them through the final meeting before commencement and graduation. So we pride ourselves that from the very beginning, students meet with, are advised by members of the faculty, and then are advised by them when they select their major choice through graduation. And then, to Amy's point, we also have a relationship with the School of Management for students who want to do minors outside of arts and sciences. And in those cases, or minors within arts and sciences. And in those cases, there's also minor advisors that work one-on-one with students to make sure that the path is straightforward. So there's a class dean that oversees the entire process. And then individually, more intimately, a faculty advisor will work one-on-one.
And it's very similar in the Carroll School of Management. The Portico faculty is kind of the generalist, as Joe mentioned, kind of could be in any, they are their faculty advisor in the first year. And then once they declare a concentration, either in sophomore or junior, they are assigned they have the professional advising staff, but they are assigned a faculty member in the area that they have selected so that they can help them with career coaching and just more specific classes that might be of interest to them in that major.
Somewhat related, not every student is going to get along or have sort of a connection with a particular advisor. What happens if a student wants to change an advisor? How does that process work? Does that ever happen?
Sure, thanks, Howard. It happens rarely that would happen, that a student doesn't kick it off with the advisor, but we realize that they may very well happen. And so that's what the Academic Advising Center is about for the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. We are available, to see students beyond Sometimes advisors don't know the answers to questions. For example, sometimes students may want to go home to California to take a summer course at home, and they want to transfer it back, and they're not quite sure of the particulars on that. And that's where the Advising Center supports our students beyond just the everyday questions that may come up on the academic side of the house. Same thing, if a student is feeling that they're not, jiving necessarily with an advisor, they come to our office and we reassign them.
I would say also, Joe, that a lot of students have unofficial advisors. A lot of students that I talk to have their assigned advisor, and then maybe have even 3 or 4 different people on campus that they go and they consult and they ask questions and they talk to. So you may not have the best relationship with the person that's been assigned, but perhaps they can answer the questions that need to be answered, and maybe you're making a relationship with someone else on campus too. I see that a lot.
It's a great point, Kathy, and we really pride ourselves in having advisement that happens outside of the academic world. I think 50%, and this is coming from an academic, 50% of learning, if not sometimes more, comes from outside of the classroom and outside of the academic world. This is why we really encourage our students to get involved in student life, in what's happening on campus and clubs and activities. Our colleagues in student affairs do an outstanding job in mentoring students beyond what our academic advisors are able to do. And this is really the beauty of a good Jesuit education, because it's holistic. It happens in and out of the classroom, and it really depends on all members of the community. So I couldn't agree more.
Well, that's an excellent transition to my next question that I was preparing to ask, which is, we've really talked about so far the formal advisement system, but can some of you give examples of the informal advisement? Kathy sort of did a little bit, but peer groups, groups that you may know, where additional to what Kathy had mentioned, would students be able to find that?
Well, they certainly can find it at the Connor Center. Like I mentioned earlier, if you came in for a chemistry tutor, I probably have 4 or 5 of them, in addition to chemistry faculty members who come into the Connor Center regularly. And you would find groups of students maybe talking with a faculty member around certain issues, and even then making plans to get together outside of class. So I think it happens there. I know plenty of faculty members, Howard, who hold office hours in the dining halls. Just tell the students, I'm going to be there from 12 to 2, sitting there eating my lunch, and I'm welcome to talk with anybody that might be coming in. And I happen to notice them when I go in and out of the dining hall. So I think there's lots of examples on campus where students can make those types of relationships and get that kind of advising.
And I know in the Carroll School, as I mentioned, every portico classroom has 2 senior teaching assistants. So that's 66 seniors there that are, their only role is to mentor these freshmen. So that hopefully, they find some comfort in that. And as well as we hire 12 to 14 peer advisors that are seniors that help with career coaching. And they're available for sophomores through seniors, and anything from internships to resumes to classes. And they are almost around the clock, Monday to Friday. So the one thing about Boston College, the students apply to give back, and there's more that apply than actually can be accepted. And it's the most unique thing I've almost ever seen. But students want to give back because they felt that someone has done that for them. They're very grateful students, and it's a wonderful aura to be around.
And I'll just add, Howard, so I'm teaching a course this semester, and I have 18 first-year students in my class from all the schools. And my first meeting with them, which happens during the first week of classes, asks this very question: what are you doing outside of the classroom to get involved? I think the transition to college is difficult now more than ever, and having some kind of a set, not program, but some kind of a process in place, or at least a discernment, as we would say at BC, is really critical. It's absolutely critical. And so this is a question that I spend a lot of my time discussing with my students, just in my class that I'm teaching, because I recognize that, the syllabus outlines what we're going to do during the semester, but far beyond that, what happens outside of the classroom is incredibly important.
So there's a couple of questions that have come in that are somewhat specific, and maybe ganging up on you a little, Joe, here. But one of them is, can you talk about the approach to advisement if someone's interested in pre-health or pre-med, which aren't particular majors at Boston College?
In the academic advising, so about 5 years ago or so, and others can maybe chime in if they want to correct me in that time frame, but about 5 years or so, the pre-health program was merged with the Academic Advising Center and the Associate Dean Office in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. And this was purposeful. And it was purposeful in that we have an increased number of students that are interested in the sciences and in STEM particularly, and that are interested in graduate programs within the health sciences. And so when we merged the pre-health program with the Academic Advising Center, the goal is to have a one-stop shop for students outside of their discipline where they can go. Because the reality is you do not need to be a natural sciences major to apply for graduate health programs. That might be the most traditional path forward, but we have theology majors that then apply to dental school or to vet school or medical school or whatever. And so when we centralized the pre-health advising program within the Academic Advising Center, we did that recognizing that it would have to have expertise in all these different disciplines with whatever the requirements were for application to graduate school. So that happens in my office. And so the Academic Advising Center oversees or manages the pre-health program. And in our office, we have professionals who work with first-year students from application through graduate school, and in fact, afterwards, because many students will graduate from Boston College and will come back and what we call a post-bac degree, post-bac program. And so even after they finish, they'll come back and we'll guide that experience for them. And there's a whole lot of intricacies that support that initiative. So I don't know if that answered your question, Howard, but the pre-health advising program happens in the Academic Advising Center. We have full-time staff and support staff that help that. And then we work obviously with the natural sciences departments to develop letters and application processes. And right now we're in the season of mock interviews. So many of our students, particularly our sophomores and juniors, are actually doing mock interviews with our academic advisors that work with pre-health students to get them prepared and ready, and then drafting the letters and so forth in applications and preparing for the MCAT. So there's lots that's certainly happening on that front. Great.
Thank you for the specifics of that, because that's what I think the questioner was going towards. And I'm glad you mentioned about the fact that you don't need to major in the natural sciences. I was answering a question today when I was in a high school in New York virtually about pre-med, and I talked about a young man that maybe Kathy and Amy would know, who's Dr. Jonathan Wright, and he was an economics major. And he teaches in the medical school at the University of Washington. So I think that's another thing in keeping with the Jesuit tradition about if someone's passion is not in the natural sciences, completely, they can still get what they want. And this is similar, and it may go back to you, Joe, but someone wanted to know about, is there anything particular special about advisement for people who want to go into the arts as an art major? Or if you want to combine arts with another major?
Sure. So the fine arts, again, I don't mean to be clicking on this, but the fine arts is something that is near and dear to the Jesuit education. The Jesuits have been part of the fine arts and music and in actual art itself and music for a very, very long time. And so we pride ourselves in a very rich fine arts program. It's part of our core curriculum. We think that's that important that we ask all of our students to have some sort of an engagement within the fine arts. And so often a student will either major, well, I shouldn't say so often. It's not our largest major within the arts, but we do have a number of students that show interest in it. But perhaps to your point, Howard, we do have students that are interested in minoring in it. Or, by the way, you don't have to minor in something just to take additional courses. In some case, over the, if 36 is the magic number of courses that you need to graduate from Boston College with a bachelor's degree, there are a certain amount, depending on how many courses are required for major, and including, of course, the core curriculum, there's opportunity to take courses outside of that and to diversify it. There's no need to minor in something just to take additional courses. In fact, a minor is never a requirement. So a student could, just as long as there's the major and the core requirements that are satisfied before graduation day, a student can expand on their interests. And this wasn't asked, but I would often say that this might be the best way to do it, is to dabble in a number of different disciplines outside of your own major, to be able to just get a flavor of what's out there. So I don't know if that specifically answered the question on the arts, but we do take pride in the arts, as is evidenced in our core.
Thank you. Amy, this one is for you. How much access to outside internships and practical work experience does the Carroll School offer to students?
It's a great question. We don't necessarily offer that, but we have great relationships. And there's a class that's typically taken in the sophomore year, some as early as freshman spring, called Career Accelerator. It used to be called Sophomore Career Accelerator, but it's a 1-credit class. We have 3 full-time career coaches or career advisors in the Carroll School of Management. And they teach this class, and it's a 1-credit class that preps them on their LinkedIn, their resume, has discussions on where they might have an interest. So even if they take it as early as freshman spring, we're not guaranteeing that there's an internship out there after freshman year, because they really haven't taken, some of the classes that they need, finance, marketing, some of those. So, but it's a start, and it's a way for them to start networking. And that's where we have a network. And part of the course is that they have to contact 2 alumni and set up informational interviews to find out, how they've gotten to where they've gotten. And the database is wonderful. It's all volunteers, people that we have Amy Donegan, who's the assistant dean, who's been at Boston College longer than even I have. And she has, so many contacts. So these are a lot of former students that we've all known over the years that are volunteering to do these informational interviews. So it's a great start. And then we help, coach them, the career staff helps. There's so many opportunities to meet people, whether it's lunch with a leader, or every Friday, the Information Systems Academy hops on a bus, or does it virtually now, and goes to 2 businesses in Boston. Like they might go to Google Cambridge and like HubSpot in Cambridge. And so there's all those opportunities for students to network and learn. And then I think through the true curiosity of doing that, then they will have contacts and have an idea of what they might want to do. We also have a startup fair. Our Shea Center for Entrepreneurship is housed in the Carroll School, but it's open to all students across the university, and they have a startup fair. And that's where there might be some opportunity for freshmen and sophomores to potentially do unpaid internships or even startup internships if they're interested in that. But typically after your junior year, we are hoping that students in the Carroll School will have some chance at an internship. I think 86% get an internship. And again, it goes back to finding your passion. There's no way to figure out what you want to do unless you do some kind of experience.
Great, thank you. And I don't know if Joe or Kathy had anything to add just about their relationship with internships and practical experience in their capacities.
I think Amy hit it for us, so it was very, very similar in Morrissey.
Yeah, and I would agree with that as well, Howard. I would say we see a lot of students. We probably employ 100 students at the Connor Center and then see thousands of students. And in the spring, the students are always talking about what they're doing, what the internship is, who they're going to connect with. There's a lot of networking that goes on behind the scenes, so very popular.
And in future open houses, the Discover Boston College, there'll probably be something about the Career Center where someone can find a lot more information about that. This is sort of switching gears a little bit, and I think each or all of you can answer this one. What prevents students from not realizing their academic potential in college? And then the converse would be what allows students to get the most out of their college experience. So you can take this in many different directions, and I encourage you to do so.
Well, I can comment on the not realizing their academic potential, because I actually see that with a lot of freshmen. And I referenced a little bit of it earlier, when many of them come to college and think about it as, you know, taking their required classes and maybe having some fun with their friends and not taking advantage of everything that is out there. And not really developing a structure and a schedule for themselves to follow. You know, having a balanced lifestyle, I guess, where they get up at a certain time and they eat 3 meals a day and they do some exercising and they go to class and they see friends and they kind of balance a lifestyle. I find often that a lot of the freshmen that I see that run into trouble are sleeping late, are missing class, are not exercising, are not eating 3 times a day. And they just get behind, and then they just get in this vicious cycle that they can't get out of. And so that's what I tend to see a lot with freshmen.
I would echo that and just say that it's not just an undergraduate problem. It's a like, I think, aren't we all, how do we maximize our day and get the most out of every opportunity, right? And Howard, if we could answer that question, we could write books and go on tour. But I think Kathy hit the nail on the head. It's a mix between relationships, which is, you know, so important to health, and getting things done to have success in the classroom and getting involved. And it's a balance. It's finding the median, you know, between the vices, because we as humans have vices, whether it's video games or socialization or NFL on Sunday. It's finding a way that, and they have to do it themselves, and we all have to do this at some point, figuring out a way that we put as much into the academics as we can, into the extracurricular, but still allow time for the socialization, because the relationship building is a very important piece of Boston College, and making it feel like home.
I suppose I'd add, so my academic research and my academic discipline is in the history of higher education in the United States, particularly from the period of the 1960s forward. And I would say throughout my own academic research and my own interest, that there is no more challenging time to be a college student than the present. And equally, there is no more exciting time to be a college student than the present. I think all of us can agree that what is going on in our country, in our world, right now calls on outstanding leaders who have the courage to eloquently voice themselves in a way that is forward and is also welcoming of all peoples, of all across all areas. And so there's no more exciting time to be a college student. And the beauty of it is at Boston College, we have the resources and the ability to, first of all, understand that, and then to provide students with opportunities to excel within that type of discernment and process that we can hopefully move forward. And so it's a challenging time for sure, but it's incredibly exciting, and the possibilities are endless. And I think the purpose of a very good Jesuit education at Boston College is to graduate from this space bothered by what we learn and the newness of what we experience, what our students experience, and how we as educators impart that to them and with them and facilitate that process. So this is very exciting, but it should be taken incredibly seriously.
Thank you. A question came in. We talked about sort of changing advisors. What happens when a student changes a major?
Well, for in arts and sciences, it depends. So it depends on how deep a student is into their current major that they're pursuing. Like I said earlier, a student can nearly go 2 full years without declaring any major and still graduate on time because of our rich core curriculum. At a certain point, though, depending on the requirements for a major, it may become more challenging to change majors the more advanced in college years a student comes. So it really, I don't like this when I hear this as an answer, but it really depends. So it depends on what the student is pursuing and what they're thinking about changing to.
And in the Carroll School of Management, it's seamless to change your concentration as long as you can finish it in your senior year. So everyone will graduate with a BS in management.
Someone in the introduction, it might have been you, Joe, referred to making connections this particular year during COVID. And someone else wanted to know, what steps have maybe each of you in your own areas taken to keep students connected during this really challenging time to be a college student?
I don't think anybody, I have a very close friend that I was expressing my concern about how we communicate with students during this time and what it means to function as a dean and as an academic and an educator and whatever. And she said to me something that was really wise. She said, Joe, when is the last time that you led through a pandemic? And the answer is I've never have. And she said, well, when's the last time your colleague did? And I said, never. And they said, well, that's good because they're not like 100 and some years old. So we don't know. This is uncharted territory for sure. The key though the absolute key is communication and availability. And that's what we in the advising center and my colleagues here on the panel have tried really very, very hard to do, is to make sure that students are aware, because let's face it, freshmen have the name freshman for a reason. This is new. This is something that they otherwise would not have experienced. Even parents who are college educated, who have terminal degrees, it's no offense, parents, it's been some time since maybe you've been in the academy. And so we need to orient everybody into what's happening now during this most unusual time, and to be able to share what our resources are and to accommodate in this kind of changing environment. And so that's what we're doing. So to answer the question, we're doing a lot of communication. Now, most of this happens in the virtual world. We're doing it in emails and we're doing it in postings and that type of thing, trying to get the word out as much as we can, and we're relying on our advisors. This is why we're really proud of our intimate one-on-one relationship of academic advising with students, to be able to relay these messages of things that may be coming up that would be important to know. I mean, for example, again, my class that I'm teaching this semester, all my students in my class happen to also be my advisees. And so at the beginning of class, I ask these questions and I say, here's what's coming up on the Heights. And here's what you may need to know about what's happening at BC this week, and how can we answer any of those questions. So this is what we're doing. So we're priding ourselves in regular communication that is as consistent and as frequent as possible without overloading or overwhelming people.
I would echo Joe's comments, but I would also, the one thing that BC did that was very unique to other schools was residential life. They allowed students to room with other students, where other schools have had singles or are fully remote. And I think at the time we all kind of scratched our head, but now looking at the freshman experience, they are having real conversations with people on their floors, in their halls, in the study lounges, and at their dining halls. They're allowed to eat with some of their friends, right? Like they're kind of staying in these friend groups, so that contact tracing and things like that. And one of my classmates from Boston College, her daughter, her third, is a freshman on Newton. And we were talking and we said, actually, she's having more authentic conversations now than she probably ever would have as a freshman, because what else is there to do? And they walk around the reservoir and kids go running together and they go to the Canal Center and work out. So I think they're finding, kind of throwback ways to get to know each other. And I think we'll all be better. Like no one will be better for the pandemic, but it will remind us of what's important in the grand scheme of things.
Thank you. We've got time for one or two more questions. One of them, again, they're starting to get a little more specific now. And Joe, this might be your area. Can you discuss the 3+3 law program, about that, and how many students typically take advantage of that?
We're very fortunate at Boston College to have a prestigious and a world-renowned law school that we partner with. And so the 3+3 program means that a student will be able to complete their 3 years of an undergraduate degree with an application to the Boston College Law School in their junior year. It's a very competitive, rigorous application process for our students, so I think it's important to know that from the outset. It means really clear planning on how students select their courses, so that they're able to complete their both a core and a major within 3 years before their application to BC Law. It's doable. You know, I don't want to be a dream crusher by any means, but it's an incredibly competitive program that deserves lots of attention and guidance as students proceed. So what I would say is if a student is interested in the 3-3 program, as soon as they meet with their academic advisor, even maybe beforehand in their summer advising, we should talk about that so that we could plan appropriately to prepare for that and clearly. You know.
Thank you. Maybe one last question from our participants here, and then an exit question for all of you. But everybody has talked about the advantages, the distinctions of a Jesuit education, and from your personal and professional point of view. If someone comes from a different tradition, you know, knowing there is a theology requirement at Boston College, how comfortable, you know, might someone feel if they don't come from the Catholic tradition? And any of you, because you're so student-centered, whoever wants to handle that can, please.
Well, I'll start it. So the reason I work for Boston College is because it's a Jesuit Catholic university. That's why I'm here. I think this is a place that fosters a sincere respect for and with all peoples, regardless of faith tradition or no faith tradition. And the richness of the Jesuits, one of the many, is that they help cultivate that and they help foster it in a way that is productive in the form of, in the intellect, so to speak. So many of our students come from, many of our students come from other traditions or no tradition at all. And the idea of a truly Jesuit education at Boston College is not to force anything down anybody's throat, but to help expand their minds. I mean, the Jesuits have this great term called eloquentia perfecta. Eloquentia perfecta translated obviously to perfect eloquence. So this idea of cultivating minds to think critically, to write effectively, and to communicate appropriately. And so they do this within the rich core curriculum. We do this within the rich core curriculum. And part of that is a theology requirement. And that theology requirement is not meant to force anything, like I said earlier. It's more meant to expand on knowledge so that students at the end of it could, as I said earlier, could leave bothered, could leave questioning, could leave wondering what is their role and what is their vocation and what is their path forward. So it's challenging because we are unabashedly and unapologetically Catholic and Jesuit at Boston College. And with that, we welcome all peoples and of varying faith traditions or no faith traditions at all.
The only thing I would add to that is that the theology requirement is not Catholicism. There's multiple ways to meet the theology requirement. You could take Intro to Judaism. You could take a comparative, like the difference between Christianity and Islam. Like there's so many multiple ways. They just want you to study a theology. And I think that's like what Joe was mentioning. That's what BC wants you to broaden your horizon, learn about philosophy, learn about theology. There's also a class called Pulse, which is one of the most popular classes, which is about learning about theology and philosophy and how we can make the world a better place, with social justice issues, those kinds of things. So it's not narrowly Catholic as far as the curriculum goes. And so it's open to all faiths and or no faiths.
And I agree with both of those answers and would say that students are welcome to take as much advantage of programming. There's a lot of religious Catholic programming on campus that many students want to take advantage of, but there's no pressure of any type to participate in any of that. So really it's up to the student to see what's available, and they can participate as much or as little as they choose.
Right. And let me just get my 2 cents in from an admission point of view. I'm Jewish and I've been here for 39 years, and I can't imagine that there's a more devoted person devoted to the import in depth of a Jesuit education. I think it transcends someone's faith, but people out there should know that there's a Hillel organization at Boston College. There's the MSA, the Muslim Students Organization. There's interdenominational chapel. So it's a big tent at Boston College. And I think that's a direct result of being a Jesuit Catholic institution. And this will be our exit question. And each of you, if you want to chime in, what can a parent do to help prepare their student for success when they go to college, particularly, their first year in college?
I would say that you should help them prepare to become independent, particularly as they approach the end of their senior year in high school. Parents should really, I think, be backing off and allowing students to do their work on their own and not be involved in their day-to-day decisions and activities, so that when the student arrives at college, they're prepared to operate for themselves. Parents, I certainly think, should guide their students and answer questions for them, but I think that when they arrive at 18, we expect them to be independent and to be able to get out and operate on their own. So I find it difficult when students have the parents really doing so much for them at the end of their senior year in high school, because you need to think about they're going to be on their own in September. And, even something as simple as waking kids up to get out the door to high school is problematic, because I think if parents are doing that, then the students may not going to be able to get up themselves in September. So I would say backing out, starting to back out so the students can be more independent.
Great advice. Thank you.
I would echo that, Kathy. As parents, it's very difficult. The one thing I would say that I see is students can separate themselves if they literally check their email and respond. Like, I just did grading group projects and I sent feedback and 2 of them wrote back, "Thanks so much, this was helpful." Understanding how to communicate cross generations, because our generation still uses email. The way that we communicate on campus is email. We don't text or tweet, or you know what I mean? So I think getting them comfortable and used to using their email to communicate with faculty and staff and all that could be a real advantage, because one, checking it is going to be a huge advantage, but also comfortable responding to emails. That would be a big tip, because communication is critical, especially during a pandemic when you're not face-to-face.
Thank you.
That was well said. I don't have anything else to add other than to empower your sons and daughters with trust. Trust that your sons and daughters are capable. If they are accepted to Boston College, they're intellectually and academically capable to excel and to succeed in university life. And so from that point, as Kathy said, I think it's very, very important to be able to allow them to do that on their own. And so I echo my colleague's sentiment.
Well, Amy and Joe and Kathy, thank you so much. That was amazingly insightful and trenchant information to give to everyone out there who's listening. We in admission are blessed to be able to have and to work with such consummate professionals as the 3 of you. Everyone out there, I forgot to tell you at the beginning, but this is being recorded. So if you wanted to see it again, if you wanted to share it, or if you came in late, you can go back in a couple of days in the open house. You can view that. I wish everybody the best of luck. I hope you have a great year. Everyone, please stay healthy and have a good evening. Thank you.